Welcome to this week's Who the Folk podcast. I'm Lonnie Goldsmith, the editor of TC Jewfolk. This week, I talk with Geri Goldman, the new program manager of PJ Library Minneapolis. We talk about how Geri moved from the publishing world back to programming, finding new ways to connect with the community, and a forthcoming expansion of a PJ Library program on this week's Who the Folk podcast. But before we get started, be sure to check out some of the other podcasts that Jewfolk produces, like The Jews Are Tired, where Lev Gringos is taking a deep dive into Jewish news, Kumba Hineni, Jewfolk's podcast on intersectionality with your host, Enzi Tanner, and if you're looking for a weekly dose of Jewish pop culture, check out The Bagel Report, produced by Jewfolk in partnership with Jay, the Jewish News of Northern California. Go to tcjewfolk.com/podcast to learn more. Geri Goldman, the new PJ Library Coordinator at JFCS Minneapolis. Welcome to the Who the Folk podcast. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing excellent. Thank you. Thank you for having me into your offices to chat today. This is wonderful.
Yeah, we're happy to have you.
So, as I said, you are the new PJ Library Coordinator. How long have you been in this role?
I started mid-December, right before Hanukkah, and jumped right in.
So just a couple months now,
Yeah.
roughly. What's the transition been like for you into this new role?
It's been wonderful. I was able to use my background and interest in children's books and in some youth programming and get right into doing community programs for Hanukkah and for Havdalah, and it's been a blast.
But so you started right before Hanukkah and jumped right into programming immediately.
Yes, I had programs already set up on my behalf that were in the community that I was joining into.
Okay.
And I think my second week there were supposed to be 3 events. It was a blizzard, so one of them didn't happen, and another almost didn't happen. But it was fun to get out there right away and meet people.
That's awesome. And weather obviously does come into play time to time here in Minnesota. So that's
Yes.
that is a thing that occasionally will get in your way. But it's great to. Does it feel good to be able to jump in right to sort of the programming side of your job, basically immediately?
It was for me because that's one of the areas that I was most comfortable with.
Okay.
I ran a Jewish youth group when I lived in Madison many years ago, and did a lot of programming for kids. And I'm also a former teacher, so I love being out there with the kids. That was kind of the one thing I was missing at my last job. So it was great.
Well, it's neat that you have that background to be able to sort of seamlessly jump into it. Because I, for example, could not just jump in and run programs for kids and families.
Well, these ones luckily were ones that synagogues and the Jewish Day School were hosting already, and so I was in addition to those ones. I partnered on those, nice. and then we started to do some co-planning for the next round of them in January and February.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So you mentioned your previous role not having so much interaction with kids. What was your
role? Sorry.
Role?
So
no,
I was at Lerner Publishing,
okay.
And they have a Jewish division called Carbon Publishing, and make Jewish books for children. One of the biggest, or maybe the biggest Jewish children's book publisher.
Okay.
So I would be on the phone mostly and doing orders with schools and
okay.
Synagogues and preschools and things like that. Some of the other PJ Library folk.
I was going to say, I know, and probably many of the parents who are listening have many Carbon
yes.
publishing books in their home that came from PJ Library.
Yes, I was actually the one responsible for placing those PJ Library orders. So
really?
It would be, 30,000 copies of this book and 20,000 copies of this book. And I would kind of take that, from the process from the beginning to end for the, shipping and communications with them and all that. So I already had some knowledge and experience with PJ Library professionally, and I have a daughter, so I was getting the books as well. So it was kind of a nice way to transition, from one to the next, knowing some about the program and the foundation that runs it and everything to start with.
So you've really intersected with PJ Library on a lot of different levels before even contemplating
Yeah,
coming out for this role.
exactly, exactly. My daughter, I signed her up when she was 6 months old, and because I was already at Carbon Publishing, so I already knew about the program. Now you can sign up right at 0, but it was 6 months at the time,
Yeah.
and started getting books for her and taking her to PJ Library programs, some of the same ones that I'm planning right now, actually. The Bet Shalom Traveling Havdalah coming up was one of the first ones we went to, and the community baby shower. And so, yeah, it's fun to come around to being on the other side of it.
You know, it's great that you signed her up for PJ Library, but like you could have just brought the books home from the office, right?
I did that too, but not all the PJ Library books come from Carbon.
That's
There
true.
are a lot of them, but especially now, PJ has actually developed their own in-house publishing company.
Really?
Recent in the last few years, and so they're still taking books from other publishers as
Okay.
well, but authors can now submit directly to them to get published
Oh,
potentially as well.
fascinating.
Yeah,
Interesting new opportunities there for
exactly.
for PJ Library. So, from a you mentioned all the experience you've had programming. What age did you used to teach?
I taught mostly third through fifth grade, both
Okay.
in public schools and at a private Jewish day school,
Okay.
primarily in Madison, Wisconsin, and surrounding areas there where I lived for a while after college. A long while. I stuck around for 18 years.
That's a long time to stick
Yeah,
around. Okay.
grew up here and then went out there to school, and then came back here in 2015 when I was thinking about having a kiddo and wanting to be around grandparents and
I
everything.
was gonna
So
ask what the drawback was. I
Yep.
think that is for a lot of people.
exactly. Yeah, I think they would have been pretty upset if I had not.
Understandably, I get that. So, what was it about the sort of the obviously programming activities is different than teaching.
Mhm.
It's a different skill set. But what was it about? What PJ was it about? What PJ Library did that was really the appeal once you saw this was available?
It was just a perfect combination of all of the jobs that I've loved, or the aspects of all the jobs that I've loved. I love children's literature and have since I was, learning to be a teacher. I took a children's literature course. It was my favorite course I ever took in college. And was always a big part of my classroom. Reading aloud, especially, was my favorite part of the day. And when I got to combine that, in a Jewish day school with, Judaism and Jewish themes, it was even more fun. And, I was able to carry that into my job at Carbon and help teachers on the phone and come up with ideas and books for them. And then that programming piece that I love that I did in my Jewish youth group days, even back when I was helping plan things back in high school youth groups. I planned things at Hillel in college, and I've just always loved programming and event coordinating. And so it was that great combination of all of those things that drew me into this.
And that's a special skill set to do that kind of programming, to find engaging activities for a potentially wide range of ages. And obviously with PJ, there's a lot of ages of kids involved from 6 months where they're just sort of hearing and maybe not even recognizing or knowing
Yeah.
what pictures are, up to even older than that, and then up to through PJR way. So you're looking at programs and activities for a huge
0
spectrum.
to 12. Yeah, we try to tailor our programs somewhat to different ages. So I have there's 2 parent connectors, Jenny and Terry, who work with the youngest children. It was traditionally a 0 to 2. We're actually expanding it 0 to 5. That's in the works. We're actually going to be looking for a new parent connector. So if somebody's
very cool.
interested,
Okay.
to work with the 0 to 2 age, along with Jenny, and Terry's going to focus on the 3 to 5 age, and we're going to that'll allow me to kind of focus a little bit on the older kids and to grow the PJR Way programming as well.
Okay.
But we're going to do some targeted programming at different ages. Certainly everyone's welcome, and there are families that have kids of multiple ages,
Right.
so it's not going to be exclusively any one age, but we're hoping that'll help a little bit. But sometimes we're able to come up with things that are equally engaging. I just ran a program at Bethel for Havdalah. I shouldn't say ran. I co-planned and co-led a program with the Bethel staff. But I brought an art project, and one of the great things, I saw a 2-year-old and a 9-year-old equally engaged in this art project, in their own way, of course. But that is a challenge, coming up with something that works for both. But trying to do that, I've had some experience with planning for wide ages, and art projects across of the board. Also, I was working at Bet Shalom during the pandemic, and planning the art projects for kind of the virtual classes for the whole spectrum from pre-K through 12, actually.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And kind of handing it off to other teachers. And so that gave me some practice, mostly searching the internet, of course, for for things that already exist. No need to reinvent the wheel, but there's a lot out there already. And we have a huge PJ Library professional network also, with tons of resources and ideas, so that's a great place to look as well.
And I was just going to ask you about that. Obviously, this is a nationwide program that you're now a part of, so obviously
international, actually.
Oh, is it
really?
All
over in different countries. It's fabulous.
No,
it's grown.
Really cool.
They translate them into, Hebrew, of course, but in Russian and Portuguese for Brazil and Spanish for Mexico, and it's in the UK, and all over. So
amazing.
It's really great. But yeah, sorry.
No,
Go ahead.
Fine. But so you have this international program, and so you don't have to come up with necessarily every idea from scratch. Now, you may have some excellent ideas that we haven't tried here before, but you may be able to build off ideas that have worked in another community in the US or in the UK or anywhere else in the world to really keep it sort of fresh and lively and interesting.
It's a really wonderful community. There's no competition because everyone's doing their own thing, and so there's tons of resource sharing, tons of support. I actually have an engagement officer it's the Harold Grinspoon Foundation that runs PJ Library. She's basically my cheerleader, coach, idea person, connector to other people, and we talk every couple of weeks, and she gives me ideas and tells me to check out this person's stuff, or emails them and tells them to share something with me. We also have a lot of online trainings that you can, and not just not trainings per se, but conversations. And they have all different topics that you can sign up for. So I did one yesterday with a bunch of people from around the country about, meaningfully engaging LGBTQ families in programming. And there was a huge range from small town to big city, and people who've done things already and people who have yet to get started. And so, it's just this great chance to share and brainstorm ideas.
Oh, that's great. And you mentioned LGBTQ families. Obviously, J Pride is also housed at JFCS.
Yes.
So, you have sort of ready-made in-house partners.
We do. We've actually, we just met this week. Isaac and I met, and we're going to be starting a PJ Pride group to do probably quarterly throughout the year, to do some programming specifically for families that are part of that community, and also attend some Pride events in June. We're gonna hopefully do the Twin Cities Pride family picnic, things like that. Or we'll be at the regular Pride also at a table with J Pride and supporting them. They're doing a big focus on doing more, including more for kids this year, nice. Citywide, and so we're going to try to be a part of that as well.
That's really cool. Really cool. So from a programming standpoint, you mentioned the parent connector program, sort of expanding in ages. What's the purpose to growing it sort of from now to that 3 to 5, including that 3 to 5?
3 to 5. Well, part of it is just the connectors kids growing up, to be honest. You know, Terry has that 3 to 5 range of kids,
Fair.
more
That's
so.
fine.
And but the people that got connected in the program initially have felt so connected that they've sort of continued on, you know, almost in a cohort to some degree, and have wanted to sort of stay together and continue to do some of this smaller programming that is more intimate and gives a better chance for families to really get to know each other and connect and friendships to form, which is a big part of what we want to do. You know, it's great to have a program and have 100 people there like we have coming up. It's fun for everyone, and certainly people can meet and engage. But when you have, you know, we had a Tu B'Shvat Seder recently, with 6 families, and I heard how the little boys made, you know, a new friend, and they were running around together, and the families got to talk and really connect, and they loved that as well. So our connector program really allows for some of that smaller, more intimate programming to happen at specific age groups. As far as the growing, you know, we also want to keep people engaged that
Right.
you know, have been engaged, and again, having that kind of next level targeted age group will I think help keep those families engaged as we move forward.
I mean, it sounded so much like how TCG folks sort of grew. We
Yeah.
started aimed at like 20s to 40s, and then we've just sort of, as that sort of initial core demo got older, they stayed with us, and we just have sort of continued to bring in from both sides of the spectrum. So like I totally understand how the parent connector program could, you know, that the connector program could also grow in that sort of same way. Is they want to stay engaged, but are also, kids get older.
Yeah. Well, you know, most cities, the connectors are regional. So, you know, in a city like Chicago, that's very spread out, and, you know, pockets in different neighborhoods and things, they are assigned more to different neighborhoods. And we kind of started that way between the two of them in that 0 to 2 age range, you know, more city versus suburbs, western suburbs kind of thing. But there's still a lot of, you know, and I think in Minneapolis area, everyone's used to driving to different places and connecting and, you know, going wherever they need to go in the Jewish community. And so the regional model wasn't that important in our city as it might be in others.
Right.
So we kind of proposed this new way of doing it and talked it through, and it seemed like it would be a good fit for us. So we're going to give it a try.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, and yes, to your point, I live in Plymouth, and frankly, I like basically everything's a 20-minute drive.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe it's 25, maybe it's 15.
Yeah, and we try to vary where we do things.
Sure.
And, you know, I mean, Golden Valley tends to be fairly central for a lot of people. So we do things here and at Brookview Park and things close by, but we, you know, certainly go into the different synagogues as well. And then we try to be in secular spaces. That's our chance to reach out to families that may be unaffiliated, or may not be as comfortable in a Jewish space. And that's a big goal of ours, is to really reach those families and help them engage in the Jewish community in a different way that might feel more comfortable to them. And so we're trying, that's kind of going to be a goal this year too, to really get into as many secular spaces as possible, the public libraries, outdoor, you know, programs, festivals, things like that, and just get out there and reach more people.
And you mentioned at least partnering in the synagogues. How important is that to have the various synagogues of the different denominations as a partner for these programs?
You know, we try to do a variety, but it's great for us and it's great for them. We can share our participant lists, so we get, you know, better attendance. We have a chance to bring in people who are unaffiliated into different synagogues so that they might find one that feels right to them and connect. We also give people a chance to then meet people, you know, outside of their synagogue community if that's where they're Jewish life is centered. It gives them a chance to meet people from others as well, since they're open to everyone in the community. But that's definitely a goal. We have these 7 engagement principles for PJ Library, and one of them is to connect families to Jewish institutions and organizations in the community. And so that's, certainly one of our wider goals, and it works well for everybody.
And I do like that you're going to try to find more secular spaces also, because for some people, for whatever people's individual reasons are, they may, their Judaism and how they connect to Judaism may not manifest itself by walking through the doors of a synagogue.
Right. And this, the PJ Library program really gives people another way to connect and a way to engage. And that's really what it's all about. I've heard in the Minnesota Mamla group on Facebook, which has become so popular, I remember hearing, or seeing, I should say, not hearing, a few people say, "Oh, we're PJ Library Jews," meaning that was their kind of one thing that connected them to Judaism. They don't go to a synagogue, they maybe don't do Jewish camps, or whatever it is. That was their sole connection, and if that's it and that keeps them connected to the Jewish community, that's fabulous. That's what we want. And
I'm not sure there's a better endorsement for PJ Library necessarily than that. Honestly, it's great.
It really has brought people in, and if you haven't seen a PJ Library book, I know you have, but people listening, they always add a flap to the beginning, to the cover, that talks about the holiday or the Jewish value that is represented or included in that particular book. And it always has a link to more resources for that holiday or for theme or whatever it is in there. And so it's not just a story, but it also has that explanation at the beginning for parents in particular. And, you never know what's going to spark someone's interest, get them, on the internet, learning more, checking things out.
Right.
And we certainly hope to do that as well, and kind of have it as a gateway to more Judaism.
Right. And sometimes parents need that push. They need that help. I mean, the internet is so vast. There's so many places to get information. Like, why not offer your own website as a place to get that info and to help people connect?
And the PJ Library website's fabulous. It has these holiday hubs and things where it includes art projects and recipes and ways to celebrate with your family and all sorts of ideas that even, well-practiced Jews should check out, especially with kids, because it's a great resource for everybody.
Well, that is excellent. Well, how can people get a hold of you if they're wanting to get more information about the PJ Library program here in Minneapolis?
Email's probably best. G Goldman at jfcsmpls.org. They can certainly call JFCS as well. And the PJ Library website nationally also will connect you to me with my info. So if you go to pjlibrary.org or pjrway.org, they have a place to put in your zip code, and it'll tell you who your local PJ professional is and how to reach them. So that works as well.
Well, fantastic. Well, Geri, last couple questions, and we will let you go. First, what is your favorite Jewish holiday?
My favorite Jewish holiday? I would say it is Passover.
Okay. How come?
I love the gathering with the family, and that we're actually sitting down around the table and all focused on the same thing, which doesn't happen very often. And I like them, it's meaningful and symbolic, and really feels like we're continuing and passing down those same traditions, from generation to generation. And it's not the food I like, but, it's still the most meaningful holiday to me, I think.
That's fair. However, speaking of food, what is your favorite Jewish food?
Oh, favorite Jewish food. Wow, that's tricky. Um, I don't know if it's a Jewish food per se,
Okay.
but my grandmother used to make sweet and sour meatballs, which I know is a popular Jewish family
Yeah.
food. Certainly from an Ashkenazi Jewish
Very
background,
much so,
and
yes.
I've continued making those for some of the holidays, and it just reminds me of her and family gatherings growing up. So I think that would be the one.
Oh, fantastic. Well, Geri Goldman, thank you so much for joining me this week, and best of luck as you continue to settle in here at PJ Library.
You're welcome. Thanks so much. Bye bye.
The Who the Folk podcast is part of the Jew Folk Podcast Network, a product of Jew Folk Inc. Please subscribe, rate, and review the show wherever you get your podcasts. If you have suggestions for other podcast guests, please email them to me at editor@tcjewfolk.com. For our other shows, check out tcjewfolk.com/podcast.